Alright, so I had a reply on my video yesterday, today being the 25th of December. So Merry Christmas for those of you who celebrate it, or Happy Holidays if you celebrate something else. Anyway, so I had a reply about removing Viridian Shaman and the Wirewood symbiote. And after thinking about it, I realized that the person who was replying was correct. I think it was DNLL. He was saying that he struggles to play Cryptic Command when he's tried to use it, and he did not like taking Viridian and Symbiote out. So after thinking about it, I put Viridian back in, Symbiote back in. I took Cryptic Command out to make one of those swaps, and what I took out was the Homeward Path to make the other swap. And the reason I think that's justifiable is that with Restore on the deck, we basically have an extra land slot, so we can pull an extra land out. So anyway, and Homeward Path was the least useful of all the lands, as Brian pointed out to me. When it's good, it's great, but it's good so rarely that it's very decadent to be wasting a slot on a card like that. So this was the result of that. First game I played against Skithrix, and I think the second game really brings it home. But so I mulligan into this hand and get a very solid hand. Provided he doesn't come screaming out the gates with his dragon before I can get on things going, I'm in good shape. I do, however, need to find a solution to it. I need to find a counter to it, or I need to find some theft. I need to find something. He plays Septic Rats, which is unfortunate since I won't really be able to block. Also interesting that he's got this proliferate thing going with Infect. I guess he's not just playing Skithrix, he's playing like a full-blown Infect style deck. I decided that the right play for me here is to keep looking for an answer to the real threat, which is the dragon. If he blocks here, that's fine. I just recast Edric, and if he doesn't, then I've got plays that I can make as well. So he blocks, and I just recast my commander. Say go. And he ostracizes my Snapcaster, which would have been my play if he would have attacked with Septic Rats. I would have just traded Snapcaster for it. Even though I wouldn't have got a card from the graveyard. But Edric has a clear path, so I swing in, and I'm really looking for an answer to that dragon. Still not finding one. However, I do have Elvish Archdruid, and with the rest of the mana I play Crucible in case that's going to be useful. Pass for the turn. He gets down the dragon. So I finally draw an answer to dragon, but it's already in play. That'll have to wait. And I just play a few cards there and say done. He sends in, and I throw the bird in front of it. I really don't want to be taking 4 points of poison damage. Half my life, +1 with Throne, right? And then he plays Phyrexian Juggernaut. That's definitely getting remanded this turn. And I can play the Scrib Ranger. And the nice thing about Scrib is I can attack with all my creatures, then I can untap Scrib by picking up a forest if I need a blocker for Skithrix. So I send all my guys to look for an answer in the top 3 cards. Boom, 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 there it is. There's 2 answers, 3 answers, we are set. All problems solved. So Boreal Druid comes down, I untap Elvish Archdruid, Sword comes down, equip Scrib with Sword, because that's my long-term solution, and in the short term, I'll make an extra dragon myself and an orb. Now, I could not have made the dragon and equipped Sword on it because targeting it with the equip ability would have killed it. So, and based on how this game's played out, I assume he's not going to have removal for this dragon. And unless he has a land drop, he can't even regenerate. He can't even attack and regenerate, but it wouldn't matter because with Infect damage, there's no regenerating from that. So he does have removal and should have played it on my Skithrix and mashed me for 4. The problem here is I can't untap the Scrib, the block, with the pro-green, pro-black guy because pro-green means Scrib can't untap itself. I would have liked to have untapped him and then equipped Sword on it, but due to how much mana I planned to spend that turn, I just really didn't have a way to do it. However, he puts Glistening Oil on Edric instead of my Skithrix. So he doesn't even get to hit me once, and that's the only opportunity he's going to get this game to do it. And then the man shows up, Tradewind Rider. At this point I've already got the win, but this definitely locks somebody out, ensures that they have no chance. Very powerful with Winter Orb. I can either choose to bounce the land that they untap, so then they can replay it, but they only have 1 mana ever. Or more than likely what I use is let them have it, let them say go, and then bounce Winter Orb and get all my lands back, and then keep them under like a permanent orb block where I don't get the effects. Although with Sword of Feast and Famine, bouncing their permanents and lands would probably be the play. Anyway, none of that matters because he doesn't have a play here. But what I was going to do is tap for 2 mana. Excuse me. What is this? 3? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Tap 3 mana here. Move the sword over to Edric, so that Edric, so Glistening Oil falls off, and then I would have 1 mana floating. 2, 3, 4. Cast Tradewind, leaving the Soul Ring untapped. Then attack with Edric, and the Skithrix, since I don't really need him to block at that point. He would take 4 damage. I would draw a card. I doubt he would block here, but maybe he would. Either way, if he didn't, I'd draw 2 cards, and if he does, and kill his guy. And if he doesn't block, he takes 4 poison. So after I deal the damage, the Glistening Oil's gone. I draw cards, untap all my lands, and then move the sword right back over to Scrib Ranger and say go. That's how that would play out. So, anyway, that was game 1. Game 2, hopefully even more enjoyable for you. Hopefully you did enjoy the first. This one was a kick-ass game, though. So I'm playing against Kiki-Jiki, piloted by one of my buddy list players. Somebody always means that I respect either the person's attitude, skill, or their attitude and their skill. But if they don't have attitude, I don't have any respect for skill with a bad attitude. I don't have respect for a bad attitude at all. So I take a mulligan and decide this is a keeper. And as long as he doesn't get Soul Ring here, I'm in good shape. If he does, then Trygon might be a little bit too slow. He gets first turn Soul Ring. But I top deck an Elf, so Trygon is not too slow. Well, hopefully. And he misses a land drop, but he Blood Moons me. Fortunately, I played that. If I hadn't played first turn Mystic, this whole game would have gone really, really awfully. So I play Trygon because that's a solution to both of these problems. And if he doesn't kill Trygon right now, I probably win this game. But he doesn't have kill for it. He has a blocker. So he plays Pilgrim, and he's one card away from Blood Moon, so I go ahead and just Brainstorm prior to attacking. And, can't shuffle any of it away because my sacklands don't work, and then my brain was totally not firing correctly. I'm like, oh yeah, my sacklands don't work. I guess I'll play a sackland. Oops. So I can't cast Edric here, so I just play my Hivemaster and send Predator. I figure he would just clearly like the play for him here is block. He doesn't block. And because he doesn't block, I kill his Soul Ring. He missed a land drop earlier, and if I can keep him off Kiki-Jiki, I can work around the Blood Moon slowly and carefully. I do need him to not kill the Elvish Mystic, but, this will hopefully make it harder for him to do that. And then he gets Coalition Relic, so I'm right back to where I started next turn, Kiki-Jiki. Kind of wish I had killed the Blood Moon. So I draw, and then, since he wasn't blocking, I go ahead and play Edric here. And probably knowing that the top card of my library is land, what I should have done was played Oracle and just played the land, because that's a guaranteed card draw. This one here is not a guarantee. Well, I mean, I get 1 card, but I know what it is. It's City of Brass, so I would have got a card either way. I might as well get the superior option and not put my Wirewood at risk. But anyway, I didn't do that. I send these. I'm hoping he Pilgrim's Eyes this, because at this point I don't care, and I really need to continue to kill his permanents. But he chumps, so I get my City of Brass in my hand. And now he's got Kiki up, but he doesn't have anything to clone with it, so I'm not horrible here. And he Flame Tongues my Trygon, so this is getting a little bit scary now. So I go ahead and just play the Oracle, what I should have done earlier. Getting a Insect. And searching for answers. Send in everybody. I mean, if he trades here, again, that's fine because he won't have anything to clone with Kiki-Jiki next turn. If he blocks here, I mean, it sucks. But I still get 2 cards deeper, and haven't played a land yet. I've played 1, but I haven't played 2 yet, so maybe there's a land on top. There's not, so I'll just play a land. So he goes... I figured he'd go for Kiki right there, but he goes for Koth. I have to counter it either way. Can't let him have that. So, with the mana floating, I'm able to play Tezzeret, and Tezzeret allows me to fetch before I play a land, of course, hoping to lock into a land for Oracle. Allows me to fetch Sword, and Sword allows me to protect Oracle, which, you know, I could have protected Edric here as well, but I figure I can recast him, I can't recast this. And now I can send the whole team, and, you know, what's he going to do? His guy's dead anyway, so he's going to take his best value, so clearly he's going to block Edric. And so he does, and I get to draw 4 cards and pip him for a couple points of damage. Still not finding basic land, but look who I found. The solution to everything, Tradewind Rider. I had a game earlier where I actually played a Tradewind early, and my opponent had the board locked up, and he ended up picking up a sword and smashing for 3 in the air, and saved me that game, just because he was a 1/4 flyer, and my opponent had a lightning bolt. He had lightning bolt, but he had no way to kill it. He lightning bolted my Edric that turn, but it didn't matter because I had the sword on the Tradewind. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, I go ahead and just move the sword over to the Mystic, because at this point I realize that the Mystic is more important than the Oracle. At this point, simply because it's my only green source, and I need to protect it. And then I take the time to regrow the mana drain, because, I mean, he can play Kiki here, but then I have a mana drain to protect against whatever he might want to clone, or he can play something he wants to clone, but then I have mana drain to protect against Kiki Jiki. So that seemed to be the way to go there. And he plays Tuk Tuk Scrapper, so much for Sword. I mean, if he had just played Kiki, of course I would have just sorted it, but yeah. Sword is dead, and he gets an extra planar lens, so he's got a whole bunch of mana threatening to be usable with 2 cards still and a Kiki. That's a big threat, especially since I only have 1 counter. So I draw for the turn my Restore, which, I mean, I have targets for Restore. Well, I don't yet, but, I mean, eventually I'll have a target for Restore. Of course I would if Blood Moon wasn't in play. But if this were a land like I had it before, I mean, I wouldn't really be that much better off, so I don't feel too bad here at this point. So what I decided to do is play Edric, because I need to get to this pod, because I need to get rid of this lens. So I play Edric and smash with just the 2 insects, since Oracle is still important to me, and all I need is a pod, and I get it. Drawing 1 card there, and then that allows me to pod into Cast Pod and activate it, and I still haven't played a second land, so I'm hoping to hit a basic island here, so I'll have counter mana by the end of the turn. So I pod away Edric again, and this time I go get Metamorph on Tuk Tuk Scrapper, killing his extra planar lands here. Trying to keep the mana under control. Now the sad part is he can play Kiki Jiki here. I didn't hit a land, and he's going to be able to kill my Birthing Pod, and then he can kill the Tuk Tuk Scrapper down the road, but I figured that was the only real play I could make there. However, for some reason he opts to make this play here. He gets the jar into play and then uses it right away. So I don't quite understand that play there, but this is all hit in the bin. So he plays a land and then dump. There goes all that. Maybe he was looking for a land. I don't really know. So but there's a rift on top, however, I don't have time to draw this up and deal with that. And I really don't want to cast Edric and then just bounce like one thing. So I want to keep potting. So I pot away my insect and use him to get a Bird of Paradise. And then I hit a land finally, playing that and that. It's funny, even though I haven't hit lands, I've still been playing like multiple lands every turn for quite some time. And so the idea here is now I've got a counterspell ready to go, and I've got a third blue, so that if he doesn't play anything counter-worthy, I can next turn play Tradewind Rider and back it up with a counter. If he does, I can counter, and then next turn I can hold up triple blue, which allows me to snap counter, depending on what happens. So we'll see. So he gets down Zealous Conscripts. Well, he tries, and I go ahead and just mana drain that thing. And draw a Gilded Drake. Potting away this time my Elvish Mystic, which seems strange because it was my only green source, but I go get Sylvan Ranger, who I use to fetch up a blue source. And I have the bird as a green source alternate, so that gives me enough mana to cast Tradewind Rider. And I'm in a good spot, so I go ahead and say go. Now I've got 3 islands, and I can cast Gilded Drake. So I just pass. Excuse me, I can cast Snapcaster Mana Drain, and I have Tradewind out. So in very short order, Tradewind is the problem solver for all problems, other than humility, I suppose. So he plays Mindclaw Shaman, and I decide that is okay. The only thing I have in my hand is Restorer. He can have my Restore. It would have been cool to play it, but there was no point when I had green mana to spare on that thing. So he gets an extra mountain. That's cool. And then plays a Thyran Dynamo. I'm sitting here looking at Viridian Shaman on top of my deck. Tradewind Rider in play. Yeah, sure, no problem. So I draw Viridian, and then think for a minute about how I want to actually do this. And so here is how this turn goes down. First, Viridian comes down, and we kill the Thyran Dynamo. Then, Pod gets activated on the Arbor, fetching Wirewood Symbiote. Wirewood Symbiote. Okay, so then I Gilded Drake, exchanging control with his Mindclaw Shaman. So now I'm able to activate Tradewind Rider, picking up Gilded Drake. Then Wirewood picking up Viridian Shaman to untap Tradewind Rider. And Tradewind Rider away is Blood Moon, which allows me to sack, find a land, and don't hit a land on top. Sack, find a basic land, and hit a land on top. Slip it into play. Sack, find a basic land. And so what I did was use that opportunity without Blood Moon to pop all my sack lands and put, except for the one that I activated, because I miscounted I should have used Dryad Arbor instead of this thing when I activated Pod. Anyway, so at this point, what I've got is it doesn't matter if he plays Blood. Now go ahead and play Blood Moon. I don't even care. I'm not even going to fight over it. I'm just going to ignore the thing. So now I'm able to tap for 3 and Viridian Shaman again, the Coalition Relic, and I've got 2 mana for Gilded Drake and 2 for Mana Drain, or Snapcaster and 2 for Mana Drain. Plus, I get to say go, and then during his upkeep, I pick up Sylvan Ranger to continue to fix my mana base, and untap Tradewind for yet a third activation of Tradewind Rider. And at this point, he gives up. Something about 3 Tradewind Riders and drawing multiple cards every turn tells him that the game is over, especially when it's combined with like Gilded Drake, Sylvan, Viridian Shaman. I mean, what are you going to do, right? So the cool thing is, although Mana Drain was really my only target, strangely enough, other than like Restore. Well, I suppose Brainstorm. But the cool thing is, what I could do is next turn I could, say he casts a spell here like Kiki Jiki. So I cast Snapcaster and then I Mana Drain it, and then at the end of his turn I Tradewind my Snapcaster back to my hand, and so then on my turn I'm able to Snapcaster and Brainstorm. Or I can hold the Snapcaster, and basically for the rest of the game, thanks to the interaction between Tradewind and Snap, for the rest of the game, every time I draw 1 counterspell, it's the same as drawing 2 counterspells. So it's pretty cool little thing there. Of course, the other option is just he taps out and plays something big, and I just put it back in his hand and ignore it. So pretty cool, assuming it's not an artifact to kill. Good stuff, and if he ended up holding... anyway, I won't get into it any further. It is Christmas, and I've got to get going and spend some time with my family, which I'm looking forward to doing. Fortunately, I had a little pause since I have 2 families to visit, and we've completed the first one, and I had a few minutes before the next. So this will probably be the only Magic I'm playing today. I hope you did enjoy the video. Here is the deck list. -1 Homeward Path, minus the Cryptic from the last video, plus the Viridian Shaman, plus the Wirewood Symbiote. And in order to make room for Trygon, who I felt was too important not to play, I actually pulled Forbid, which seems crazy. It might be crazy. I do want the Forbid in there, but I noticed that holding back 3 mana is very difficult to do in this deck. I frequently am tapping out. I'm frequently tapping low. It's a proactive deck, and I would probably rather have, to be honest, I'd rather have Memory Lapse in here over Forbid first. I mean, if I were going to add 2 more cards, if I had the slots, maybe I would add Memory Lapse, and then I would add Forbid, perhaps. But without having the extra slots, something had to go. Lapse is the weakest 2-mana counter other than Arcane Denial, which, I don't know, maybe I would add those two, who knows. But I didn't really like 3-mana counters, and I suppose that's the other reason why Cryptic ended up coming out without too much stress for me. The very expensive counters are very hard to use in this deck because you should be constantly doing something, and it's hard to have like excess mana while you're being proactive. So yeah, and I think the other thing about Trygon Predator is that he's just so important. It's so important to kill Soul Ring and friends early. I mean, you absolutely have to kill their freaking artifact mana. That's the format, and when you forget it, as I have at times, you get punished. But the only losses I had were from my opponents ramping too fast and me staring at a handful of like slow or non-existent answers. So now with Trygon, Viridian, Claim, Zenith, so I can go get Viridian or Trygon, Chord, so I can go get Viridian or Trygon, then the Counterspell Suite, and Pod, so I can go get Viridian or Trygon. I have a pretty hefty amount of answers, plus there's Natural Order and Trastodon. So I have a pretty heavy anti-artifact package now, probably the heaviest it's been in this deck. And I think that's probably right. I think you can go with too many... you can go with... If you have to pick between too many answers and not enough answers, pick too many. Against the people that it's no good, like the players who don't have like Soul Ring and don't play cards like this, you're probably going to beat them anyway because you do. And against everyone else, you're going to need them. So, anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're having a great holiday season, and I'll see you next time.